Alright, let's be honest. Are you tired of chipping away at all these stupid enemies in Enshrouded? You know the dance. You spend like a minute dodging around to kill one single foe, poking them with small hits, and it feels like you're just wasting time. But what if you could flip the script? I've been going around trying to find some really cool builds here in Enshrouded, and I think I found a really fun one that is actually a high skill, high reward kind of idea. I'm going to show you how to make like an absolute stagger machine, and this thing is just, when it works, it is so damn good. This is the Enshrouded Parry block build, and yeah, it's a damn good time. If you're new here, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more Enshrouded content. Before we go jumping straight into the skill tree, let's talk about why this build is powerful, kind of like the idea about why I wanted to go this route. In a lot of games, I like to be the tank. I like to be the melee combatant, be a sword and shield and all that. Yeah, sure. It's great for soaking up damage and then waiting for an opening, but it doesn't really do it justice as far as an offensive powerhouse. This build here is meant to be like a flip of the script. Your defense is your offense. The whole concept around this entire build is built around the beautiful mechanic of the parry, which was recently added. A successful parry does way more than just negate damage. It hits the enemy with a massive amount of stun, shooting their stagger bar all the way through the roof. Once the bar is full, the enemy is completely overpowered and defenseless for a few seconds. This is when we go to work. While other builds are busy dodging and weaving, we're actively looking to catch these attacks and turn it against our enemies. Their aggression is their own downfall, is kind of the idea. This playstyle gives you 3 huge advantages. First, you get like total control. You dictate the pace of like every fight. An enemy winding up for a huge attack isn't really as much of a threat anymore. It's an opportunity. Second, it creates massive damage windows. Instead of squeezing in little hits between combos, you create your own openings and land your strongest attacks basically risk-free. And finally, it's incredibly efficient. Fights that used to be very long, drawn-out slugfests become short and decisive victories. You're not just surviving, you're like dominating. That's the power of this like stagger build. All right, first let's go ahead and cover the skill tree. So we understand the why of the build, and now let's go over the how. First up, and one of the absolute cornerstones of the build is in the center block, the center section for power parry. Seriously, this one is non-negotiable. It dramatically increases the stun you inflict with a successful parry, which is what makes this whole thing possible. Inadvertently, you grab Merciless Attack. This skill massively boosts the damage you deal to stunned and overpowered enemies. You stagger them with a power parry, and then you punish them with a Merciless Attack. The synergy just works so well. I pick up this other note here that like 10x's the amount of damage that you will actually do with your Merciless Attack. You can't help. As you are building out, you are looking to go down the red tree and go for Heavy-Handed. This skill increases the stun damage you deal when hitting an enemy that is blocking. While parry is our main tool, this also lets us punish defensive enemies and break their guards even faster, which it does. It happens very, very quickly. The other key cornerstone of this build is going to be for Breach, which after you overpower an enemy, this skill makes all your melee attacks deal double damage for a short time. Think about the combo though. You parry, the enemy staggers, and now for a few seconds you deal extra double damage, and especially coming on top of your Merciless Attack. It just melts enemies. Next I go for Shockwave. This causes an area of effect pushback when you parry an attack or overpower an enemy. This really builds up stun bars on everyone around you just incredibly fast. And it scales with strength too, so you can't beat it. Then I go down the warrior trait line, picking up all the bonuses to strength as well as other nodes like swift blades and veteran, things that are going to just improve my overall DPS output. I then sneak up to the survivor tree and work all the way up to the skill rebound. Rebound gives you a base increase of stamina regeneration by 50%. I also get double jump. I feel like you can't not get double jump in this game. You have to have it at all times. It's just critically important. And then from there, I kind of make my way down into the tank tree, picking up some of the constitution nodes as well as the strength nodes, specifically the one tower, which is you take 10% less physical damage if there's 3 or more enemies within 20 meters of you. It happens a lot. You're going to be surrounded by quite a few enemies, especially if you I play on the harder difficulty. So there's lots of enemies all around me. And of course, to round everything out, grab all the other stat nodes when you can. Pick up constitution nodes. You see more health means more room for error while you're learning the parrying times, as of course grabbing strength nodes to boost your overall melee damage. I also did pick this one up, and I kind of like it, is the Blood Warrior trait. This spawns a health globe after defeating an enemy with a sneak attack or a merciless attack. There's quite a few times where you will just instantly one-shot an enemy, and it really helps out with the idea of healing. All right, now that we got our skills out of the way, let's look at the gear. A build is, of course, nothing without the right gear for us. Now, the most important piece of equipment that we have is our shield, but not all shields are created equal. We're looking for something a little bit different than the brute force typical tank. When you look at a shield, you'll see two stats, block and parry power. For the standard tank, block is key. For this parry block build, we need parry power, and that is everything. This direct stat controls how much stun you inflict with a parry. Always, I mean always, prioritize the shield that has the highest parry power. A shield with low block but sky-high parry power is way more valuable for us. That means that we're nearly instantly overpowering an enemy and causing a breach. For weapons, you want a fast one-handed weapon like a sword, an axe, or a mace. Since we went ahead and went with swift blades, a one-handed sword or an axe obviously is the most important one here. This is because skills like power parry only work when you have a shield equipped. A one-handed weapon lets you follow up instantly after a parry. Two-handed weapons are great, they're not right for this build, since they really force you to give up a shield, which that's kind of like the entire engine of this. Now for armor, in the early game, just focus on getting that high parry power shield. Any melee set will do and you'll be fine. Moving into the mid and the late game gear, of course, look for those who have strength and constitution, anything like that. Again, I still run the Radiant Paladin set just because that's one that I have a complete one, and it works fine, even though it's not necessarily conducive to the parry build here. In the late game, you're hunting for any of the legendary sets. Look for those that boost melee damage, critical strike chance, or stamina regeneration. The goal is to become kind of like this parrying god. So, of course, the consumables that you should have go along with like any other typical melee-oriented build. You want to have one that has a good amount of stamina regeneration. You want to have strength as well as constitution buffs rolling at all times. Any good meat will get you constitution buffs. I usually carry around a whole bunch of hazelnuts just for the instant 15% increase to damage. Melee damage with strength, but you can go for like the meat wrap or the open sandwich. I mean, there's a number of different ones that you can go down and you'll be fine. Of course, you can also pop Flask of the Fell, which increases your damage by 30% flat, which means that that first merciless attack is just going to be absolutely devastating. It is going to be absolutely brutal. All right, so you got the skills, you got the gear, you got the buffs. Now it's time to put it all together. Mastering this build is all about rhythm and timing. You want to press that block button at the very instant an enemy's attack is about to land. You don't want to hold it down early, that's just a block, and it's far less effective. You want the parry. To get a hang of it, pay close attention to the enemy's animations. Nearly every enemy in Enshrouded has a tell. Their weapon might glint or flash, or it might make a certain sound right before the swing. What seems impossibly fast at first will become a second nature with a little practice. Your ideal combat loop looks something like this. Bait the attack by stepping into the enemy's range and getting them to swing. Don't be afraid of their biggest, scariest moves. Those are usually the easiest to see coming. The parry. Time your block to hit their attack. You know you'll did right when you hear that satisfying clang and you see the enemy stagger bar jump up. After just one or two parries, the enemy stagger bar will fill and they'll slump over, being completely helpless, and then you punish. This is the moment you rush in and unleash your strongest attack, which is the merciless attack. Comboed with breach, you are just going to be doing an immense amount of damage. It should nearly one-shot enemies. If they're still standing, back off and just do it again. They swing, you parry, they stagger, you punish. It's really simple. It's a brutally effective cycle. When you're facing a group, this build still shines. The AI in this game often has them attacking one at a time, so you can parry one, turn to another, parry, and control the whole crowd. It feels like you're a martial arts master redeflecting the blows. However, I want to make mention that you still also have Shockwave, which even if you're parrying one attack, it's going to build up their stun bar from nearby enemies as well. So you're constantly just building this up. Now, as a note, the timing for parrying can be difficult in learning, and I will admit I still had some issues struggling with the timing and when to put my shield up. But as you get into it, you just feel like you're just blocking all attacks, and it's absolutely devastating what you'll do to the enemies. Incredibly, incredibly powerful. All right, so hopefully this build has given you a little bit of an experience of combat in Enshrouded, and it turns you from just like a normal survivor into like an absolute dominant fighting force that wants to go out and throw hands. Like, you'll stand your ground, hopefully, against the bigger, badder enemies of the game, and you'll win easily. That's the build. That's the idea. It's a rewarding, skill-based playstyle, and it's insanely powerful. Once you get a hang of it, it is insanely powerful. What I'll try to do is figure out a build guide that could help out for you. You can try my Phantom Assassin build, which is all around sneaking around and one-shotting enemies. And you can see that video here. As always, stay caffeinated, folks.